Yeah, two things before I turn to Corey. She can also tell me how wrong I am. One is, uh, as part of his campaign to win the Nobel Peace Prize, which he wasn't really interested in until Obama won it, and now he really needs to have one, um, and solve a war a month. I'm really looking forward to the Armenia and Azerbaijan talks because I want to hear Trump say Nagorno Karabakh. I mean, he might stroke out trying to say that. But the other thing is, of course, just with regard to the India tariffs, just as a reminder to everybody who is not following these things super closely, India doesn't pay those, right? We do. American taxpayers are the ones
Yeah,
who
that's true.
pay
But India is
the.
very, very unhappy about those tariffs. They're going to do
Oh,
massive
sure.
damage to the Indian economy if they're actually implemented.
Yeah, no, sure. There's, they are definitely a lose-lose proposition. I just want to point out that among the losers, there's also us. So I guess what I'm getting at here, Corey, is I'm kind of skeptical that Trump has had a big change of heart. I think he is kind of tantruming, but he is very unlikely to do the big things that Max is talking about that are right there for him to do. Until he does those things, I'm going to stay skeptical. But where are you on this?
So I am closer to where you are than where Max is, although Max makes a very persuasive case. I think the reason it doesn't entirely persuade me is because it relies on an assumption that Trump policy is unidirectional. That is, he's made a decision that Russia's not going to compromise and produce the ceasefire he wants. Therefore, policy is changing and irreversibly so. And my observation of Trump administration policy is that it vacillates wildly based on whatever information the president sees on TV at any particular point in time. And it strikes me as just as likely that the president will see the video of his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, looking chummy with Putin, and all will be forgiven. So I'm not as persuaded as Max is that a Damascene conversion doesn't preface additional conversions in policy by the Trump administration. On India, I think it's really potentially, it strikes me that Prime Minister Modi's taking planting his flag, or as they used to say in the Royal Navy, lashing himself to the mast. And it would be really interesting if India is the country brave enough to reject Trump intimidation with tariff threats. I have been surprised that for um, all of the time that Japan, South Korea, the European Union, Australia, Canada, and Mexico, all the time they have not created a coordinated line of rejection of Trump tariff threats or coordinated a response across their governments in ways, excuse me, in ways that would be consequential. I mean, what Trump is doing that's different from other American presidents since 1945 is because he doesn't value allied contributions, he is wringing the maximum amount of advantage out of every US negotiation. And that requires the negotiations to be bilateral for the US to have maximum leverage. And so the most likely successful strategy by everybody else is a coordinated front in confronting Trump. And we haven't seen that from the countries that are America's closest friends. But India, because it's not reliant on the US for security guarantees, might be the country most able to start a rally of confronting the tariffs, because they can probably afford it in a way that countries more reliant on the US for security haven't felt able to confront Trump.
So let me say one thing as the former trade official here. Let me say one thing, and that is, I agree. I thought there would be more direct pushback. But what I think is interesting with regard to the tariffs is that there has been what I would call, I've not called it this before, but I will stick with it hereafter, uh, trade rope-a-dope. And what I mean by that is that the Japanese and the South Koreans and the Europeans have all said, "Oh yeah, yeah, sure, we'll do a deal. This is a deal. You've done a deal. Congratulations, Don. You've done a deal." Of course, they haven't actually negotiated a deal. All the details remain to be resolved. And within it, there is this big honking thing that Trump loves. They have promised to buy all these goods. Well, this is a page out of the Chinese book the last time Trump was around, where they said, we're going to buy $500 billion, and they don't do it. But they give Trump the win. It's rope-a-dope. Yes, sir, you've won. You've had a great deal. But there's actually no trade deal. And they've all done that, or a lot of them have done that. So
well done, David. That sounds exactly right.